Bowen Center for Public Affairs. I'd also like to thank all our volunteers, and we thank Muncie Community Schools and Southside Middle School for allowing us to hold the forum here. Finally, we would like to thank WIPB, who's recording these forums and providing a live stream video feed, and WIPB Radio, who's broadcasting these forums on WMUN 92.5 FM, 1340 AM, as well as providing access to the live stream on its Facebook pages. You may also visit our community website, communitycandidateforums.com, for more information about this and upcoming forums. The purpose of these forums is to give the public a chance to submit their questions to candidates for positions on this year's ballot and hear the candidates' answers. Volunteers are distributing index cards and pencils for you to submit your questions. When you have your question, you hold it up, somebody will come around and collect it. We ask that you focus your questions on issues that are within the responsibility of the candidates here tonight, and that you try to keep them short and to the point. Two of our committee members, Jim Arnold of Citizens of Delaware County for Good Government and Sarah Vitale of Muncie Resists, will be screening the questions to ensure they meet those two criteria. My political science colleague, Darren Wheeler, will sort the questions by topic area and pass them on to me. We'll also have a question or two that were submitted by Ms. Julie Snyder's government students at Muncie Central High School. All candidates for County Commissioner and County Council were invited, but unfortunately not all were able to participate. From now until about 7:45, we will hear from the candidates who joined us tonight. After I introduce the candidates, each one will make a 2-minute opening statement. Excuse me just a minute. After I introduce the candidates, each one will make a 2-minute opening statement. After their opening statements, we will ask as many questions as time allows. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer, rotating and responding. Our timekeeper will indicate when there are 30 seconds remaining and when the time is up. I ask the candidates to keep an eye on the timekeeper's indication. After the questions, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and I will make a brief closing statement. We ask that you hold your reactions during the forum and hold your applause except for now as we greet the candidates. Shannon Henry is the Republican candidate and incumbent County Commissioner, District 3. Efforts to contact Mr. Henry were unsuccessful. Daniel Flanagan is a Republican candidate for County Council, District 1. He is unable to be with us tonight. Monty Barber is the Democratic candidate for County Council, District 1. William Hughes is the Republican candidate for County Council, District 2. Matt Kantz is the Republican candidate for County Council, District 3. Mary Chambers is the Democratic candidate and incumbent for County Council, District 3. Efforts to contact Ms. Chambers were unsuccessful. Jane Lassiter is the Republican candidate and incumbent for County Council, District 4. She is unable to be with us tonight. Christy Knapp is the Democratic candidate for County Council, District 4. Thank you all for being here tonight. Now each candidate may make a 2-minute opening statement. Mr. Hughes, you may go first.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor, and thank all the organizations for sponsoring this forum. My name is William Hughes. As Dr. Taylor indicated, I'm the Republican candidate for County Council District 2. District 2 is roughly the northwest quarter of Delaware County, so it would include the west side of Muncie, the north part of Yorktown, and Harrison and Washington Townships, so up to Gaston and the community of Wheeling. I am married. My wife, Roseanne, in fact, worked in this building as a student assistance coordinator when it was Southside High School. We have one son who's also married, and one grandson with a second grandson due in January. I'm a native of Delaware County, lived here all of my life. I practiced law with the law firm of Beasley and Gilkison, and that's been my entire career with that law firm. In that capacity, I practice not the kind of law you see on Law and Order or Blue Bloods or one of those shows. It's real estate. I do a lot of local government work. Also business and estate planning is the core of my practice. In the community, I've been active with Muncie Action Plan, one of the sponsors here, for the past 7 years. I'm also been active with Huffer Memorial Children's Center and Chamber of Commerce, among other organizations. My good friend, a longtime friend, Ron Quakenbush, has held this council seat for several terms. When he decided not to seek another term, I felt a calling to maybe that is something that I could contribute back to the community based on my experience and interest in local government. And I look forward to serving you. Thank you.
The tech booth has asked me to have you all share that one microphone. It seems to be the one working. Thank you. Mr. Kantz, you may go next.
Thank you, and thank you for having me for the Bowen Center and all the other contributing organizations here. My name is Matt Kantz. I am running in District 3, and as Bill talked about the Northwest Quadrant, I'm actually in the Southeast, so most of Selma area, Cowan, and it stretches up Burlington and Ohio into the Old West End, up through Wheeling and east, so Minnetrista and east of Minnetrista, so it's a unique district that I'm going to be looking to serve. I have been in Muncie area for about 20 years, close to 20 years now. For almost that entire time, I have known and been with my wife, Jamie. We have two daughters, Emma, who's 21, and Abigail, who is 20. Emma lives here in Muncie and is working at the YOC, and my other daughter is a junior at IU. They went to Wapahani High School. We've been in the Selma area almost all of that 15 plus years that we've been here. I serve as my real job, I guess, is as a national sales director for a big global healthcare technology company. I've been in healthcare for the last 20 plus years, both on the health system side and then also on the vendor side. So I work in and out of health systems all across the country. Prior to COVID, I had traveled a lot in and out of here from Muncie area, and have been exposed to a lot of different areas, different cities, different communities, and really hope to garner some of that experience both in the business sector and also in those travels, and really trying to get to know communities outside of Indiana and how we can continue to improve what's happening here. So let's see, that's probably about it from my background. I do serve as the president of the Muncie Economic Development Commission under Mayor Ridenauer, and have been active in some of the community boards around town as well. So thank you again.
Ms. Knapp.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I'm Christy Knapp. I'm running for County Council District 4, which includes some of Gaston, Royerton, Albany, DeSoto, Eaton, a large area north of Muncie, and into Muncie somewhat as well. I have 3 children, Kenna Jones, Casey Heineman, and Dean Knapp. I'm married to Alan Knapp. I've been for a long time. I've always lived in Delaware County, Hamilton Township, all of my life. My parents were both teachers. I became a teacher, and I taught at Albany Elementary and Royerton Elementary. I then went back to Ball State and got my EDS and was hired at Richmond Community Schools, where I was the elementary principal there, and then became central office employees and ended up as associate superintendent there. That's where I've gotten my knowledge of budgeting and monitoring budget, which I think helps qualify me for this position. My husband was a teacher as well. We had come from a long list of teachers. So we are going to have we're going to have research-based decisions. I think we really need a fresh look at the city council or the county council. I think we're doing some things a little differently. When we've got a limited budget. 80% of that is in salaries, and we're losing people because they can make more money in other counties. So we really have to look at how we can develop more money. And so we've got some good ideas, and hopefully that will come to fruition. Thank you.
Mr. Barber.
Hi, I'm Monty Barber. Some of you, I want to start off by thanking all the candidates that did show up. I apologize that I'm late. I just got off work in Indianapolis and made it straight here. I live in Muncie on the south side. I'm running for County Council District 1. That covers the southwest side of Muncie, covers Daleville and part of Yorktown. So it's a pretty good size area. I am a union heavy equipment operator. I'm also a member of Labor's Local 1112 here in town, so I am union strong. I'm married to my wife, Darla. We have 4 kids, 6.5 grandkids, and I've lived in Delaware County my entire life. I graduated from Wapahani High School in 1989. My kids, they went to Wapahani. About 12, 13 years ago, I moved to Muncie. I had an opportunity to buy a house in Muncie, and so I did. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. I've only got 2 minutes in this session, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. I have an issue with the transparency quotes that was in the newspaper and stuff like that, and I think that anybody on the council, any elected official, needs to be transparent, not afraid to be transparent, and understand who their employers are. The taxpayers are our employees. As elected officials, the taxpayers should come first. So that's what I got to say.
All right, thank you. I have 1 or 2 questions to start us out while we gather audience questions. And my first question is about the county's budget process. So the council is the fiscal body for the county. Its primary responsibility is to pass and oversee the county budget. And so I just ask, what is your view about the current budget process? Is there anything you would like to see changed? And Mr. Kantz, you can go first.
Thank you. Anything I would like to see changed? Well, to resonate what Audie said, transparency is key. I've had multiple conversations with members of the current county council before I decided to run in terms of communication and how things are communicated out from the county council, and that we can be doing a much better job proactively of getting information out to the citizens of the county, primarily to know what we're actually working with and what is not reasonable and what is reasonable in terms of the dollars coming into the county from the state. So that is one area where I think we can continue to improve and invest in some time and be able to really get people on board with understanding how the council budget is happens and what the process looks like. Who's next?
Thank you. Ms. Knapp, you may go next.
Yes, thank you. I don't have any problem with a budget is a budget. We have very limited ability to do much with anything besides personnel. However, the things that we really need to be doing outside of the budget would be to look for capital, look for monies that can be brought into the budget and can be used to keep our people here. And so I think when you go outside of the council and try to do things. It needs to be, as we said, transparent. You have a process to follow. All of the meetings need to be held as they should be, publicly, and everything needs to be above board. We shouldn't have to put a moratorium on anything because we haven't done things in the proper way. When we don't follow our rules, we lose trust. And trust is the most important thing we could have with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barber.
Okay, once again, first thing that needs to be done is the meetings need to be changed to the evening time. I feel all meetings should be in the evening time to where people that do work every day, either a 9 to 5 or a 7 to 5 or a 6 to 3 or whatever time schedule they're on, they should be able to come to these meetings and be able to put their input in. If they can't make it to the meetings, these budget meetings are not being recorded at this time. They're not being live fed. They need to be live fed. There was an issue this week with the commissioners because they don't want to be transparent. They didn't want to spend the money to have these budget meetings live streamed to where people like you guys and everybody else that wants to sit and watch them at home to know what's going on in their county government to be able to. So they missed the mark totally when it
Health Department. So you've got a lot of little individual budgets. I think if I were to make a suggestion, I think we need to extend the budget process, not just wait until those budgets are submitted in July and then have hearings in September. I think it needs to be more of a year-round process so that we can make fact-based decisions about what should be the priorities for the taxpayer dollar.
Thank you. Okay, I have a question from the audience here. And audience member asks, how will you hold companies accountable for the tax abatements they've received? Ms. Knapp, you may go first.
Well, the money has to be in there at a certain time and a certain place, and there needs to be a check on that. The council should be checking. That should be part of the process. As you monitor a budget, you always check to see that the things that are going on that you've agreed to are going on at the right time, at the right place.
Thank you, Mr. Barber.
I think with the, can you repeat the question? I want to make sure I have it right.
How will the council hold companies accountable for the tax abatements they've received?
Okay, well, I feel that if a person gets a tax abatement and they go out of business before they pay it back or their time limit's up on it, I think they should be held responsible. And I think that the county should go after the people and try to recoup some of the money or all the money. Simplest thing, just hold them accountable, make everything transparent, hold them accountable, and, you know, weigh each one of them out individually and look at their record and see if they have received tax abatements before and not paid them back or didn't go to the term or lost the building that they had the tax abatements on and stuff like that. So I think the people receiving the tax abatements should be held accountable for the actions they take when they receive the money.
Mr. Hughes.
Every applicant for a tax abatement makes certain representations as to what they're going to construct, how many people they're going to employ over what period of time. Those are supervised in a sense by the county auditor, but the county council also has their own tax abatement committee. And it would be my hope that the tax abatement committee of the council usually made up of 3 members of the council and maybe 1 or 2 outside individuals, would be more active in making sure that those promises are fully complied with. I think the model is the City of Muncie. The City of Muncie's done a very good job of making sure that on an annual basis, all of those abatements are reviewed to make sure that the promises are being kept.
Yeah, I would continue with what Bill says relative to that, that if the mechanism is not actively working, then it needs to be actively working. The Tax Abatement Committee is, to Bill's point, that body that should be doing that. So my hope would just be simply that we're checking that box year over year and making sure that we're holding those companies accountable to the promises that were made. As part of the Muncie Economic Development Commission, currently we're the ones that are the first line of defense on the city tax abatements, so we get to see that information, but then it goes into the city council, and ultimately they're the ones, you know, responsible for kind of holding them accountable. And on the county side, I think it should work the exact same way.
Thank you. Ms. Knapp? Oh, no,
I already did.
we're ready for a new question, aren't we? Sorry. Another question from the audience. How engaged should the council be in allocating funding for expanding addiction programs? Ms. Knapp, or Mr. Barber, you go first.
Yeah, I think the council should be fully involved with it. I know the council does the budget, but it's also part of their duties, I feel, as a public servant to try to break money back into the county and work to get more industry back into Delaware County, because Muncie and Delaware County is hurting right now. Everybody has to travel to Indianapolis, Noblesville, Carmel, places like that to work because there's no good, decent paying union jobs here in Muncie. And I think we need to fight hard to get those back.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes.
This question became a little personal. Last week I had the privilege, truly, of serving on a jury here in Delaware County in the case involving the death of a young woman due to fentanyl. And the testimony that the police and the toxicologist gave was just absolutely stunning. We have a tremendous problem, and it needs to be addressed. I applaud the commissioners who had the vision to not only create a new justice center, but make it a justice and rehabilitation facility. And they're in the process of staffing that, I hope in a way that will bring us to the forefront of being a community that really shows that we care about our citizens and those who suffer from addiction.
Mr. Kantz.
Yes. Technically speaking, the county council has no real influence on what's happening with the rehabilitation centers or the addiction issues that obviously plague our city currently. But one point I'll mention relative to what Artie said is it's everybody's responsibility to be proponents of our county and of our city and trying to drive economic development, economic revenue into here. The county council is not directly, responsible for that. The commissioners are responsible for economic development, but it's still all of our, I think, collective responsibilities to be promoting and looking for ways to bring new industries and new employers into our county.
I think every community is suffering because we don't have a crisis center. I think it's a issue that every small and large city is struggling with. I too had a personal situation where they were trying to get help for an individual and tried to go to judges, tried to go get people admitted into the hospitals. It's difficult. It's difficult both with the juvenile and with the people that are over age. We don't have a system right now that works well for that. And I think that the county council needs to be looking to see if there's any way in the budget that they can contribute to that, but it's going to have to be a joint process. There's nothing that the county council can do without the city council and without the other government agencies to contribute into that same crisis center.
Okay, Mr. Hughes will have the next question first. So this question, does or should the county fund any services to assist housing the homeless or preventing them from becoming homeless?
I think that I can say at this point, I don't think that is a program that is funded by the county in a direct way. I think that more than anything, the county could be a partner. The city of Muncie has significant involvement. There are many nonprofits that have taken on that responsibility and need support, not only financial, but in other ways. And I think the county can be a partner in that process. I don't know that the county itself is going to be effective in providing homes for the homeless or other avenues of service to them.
Yeah, I would agree with what Bill's saying there, that again, kind of indirect impact from a county council standpoint, but I do think that there's an opportunity to bridge what the city is ultimately either typically responsible for or tends to be responsible for relative to homelessness, and potentially trying to find avenues within the county outside the cityscape to really look at maybe there's some potential opportunities for partnerships and expansions from a nonprofit standpoint in that area.
Well, I know that the trustees, our division, has looked at making some housing available to people that are homeless, putting some homes in place for the families. It's very difficult for families that are struggling. Individuals, it's difficult as well. But it is an issue, again, that we've just got to face and tackle it. And the county council, again, revenue is an issue. We have to do something to bring more revenue into the county. And again, have to be able to do the things we need to do in order to put that in place. Every time we say no to a renewable energy, they walk down the road to find a home for it someplace else. And so we're just going to have to do something to make it so that we've got things in place and can make that work and bring more money to the county.
Simple answer to this question is yes, when the funds are available. I feel that the homeless is a very bad issue right now. There's too many people that are homeless. I think with 7 council people and 3 commissioners and the staff of Delaware County, I think everybody needs to work together to find funding for the homeless. And if it takes everybody going out and working on getting grants, whatever it takes to get it, check every avenue. Yeah, homeless is a big issue. And I try to help out as much as I can on it, but I think the county could work a little harder to help the homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question will go first to Mr. Kantz. How do we bring good-paying jobs to our county?
Do you have 100 minutes we can talk about that instead of just one? How do we bring them? Well, a couple of areas that I think under Mayor Ridenour's administration he's really been focused on is quality of life initiatives, and I think that's helpful in terms of trying to attract new businesses here. Again, County Council directly is not impacting economic development outside of being influencers, just like everybody else can be, in terms of trying to drive new jobs here. I think we've made a lot of progress, though, in the last few years in terms of really trying to get some variety outside of typical manufacturing, but also trying to, expand what businesses like Accutech and others have really started to bring to the table, and building upon that. I think our partnership with Ball State also needs to, continue to improve, and really trying to retain that talent that comes out of Ball State University and keep it here locally.
Well, we need to do something. We're losing our greatest commodity is our children that graduate from college and then leave the city. And so we've got to do something to provide jobs for those people, for those young ladies and men, so that they can stay here and thrive in an area that's good for them. So again, I think we just have to be proactive. I think we have to be watching and looking and recruiting to get companies here, to get jobs that will pay more. We also need to be able to find finances so we can pay the people that we already have more. So.
Once again, it goes back to the 7 councilmen, people, 3 commissioners, all the county employees, all the city employees at that, working on getting more business in here. We've got can pack going in out here. I want to thank the commissioners for bringing that to Muncie, Delaware County. They worked with the state and everybody, and they got it together, and they got it going out here. We need to do more of that. Getting a hold of companies that may not be actually looking at Muncie to move, but bring them to Muncie with the tax abatements as long as they follow the guidelines and everything. You know, you got to give them a break to get them in here. Get them in here, they'll start hiring our people from Muncie, and then, you know, it'll start building and building and building. So contacting more companies and getting them in here would be the main thing.
The county's been very fortunate. We have a professional staff. They're not county employees, but Brad Bookout, Bill Walters, working with Tracy Lutton from the Muncie-Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, have been very effective in making Muncie and Delaware County known in the right circles to bring CanPack and some of the other employers to this county. But the bottom line is, you have to have an attractive place for people to live and work. And that takes a lot of work and frankly, a large investment. And I think the county can play a big role in that. And then secondly, you have to have an educated, talented workforce. And that's Ball State, certainly. It's certainly Ivy Tech, certainly improvements in our public schools to make sure that we have individuals who can staff these organizations should they choose to come to Delaware County.
Thank you. Another kind of related question. I think a couple of you may have touched on this a little bit, but this is a chance to maybe address it in detail. How can we keep young workers in Delaware County? And it's like, Ms. Knapp, you go first.
Well, I think we have made some strides, especially in public education. Many of our children can graduate from high school with a 2-year degree. So they are coming prepared. We need more preparatory school opportunity, though. We need electricians, we need construction, we need all the different kinds of jobs, knowledge, and we need to be able to put those kids in place with a job. We need something to do to recruit them so that they'll stay here.
I've touched on this already. Higher paying jobs have to come to Muncie to keep our kids here, to work here. They have to come to Delaware County. Higher paying jobs have to come to Delaware County to keep our kids in the county. Pushing our kids to get a good education, letting them know the avenues that they can go. We've got a laborers union right down the road here that are really hurting for workers to go out and work and actually go out and do the jobs. We've got a training site for the local 103, which is the operators union, right out here in Chesterfield. All they have to do is, you know, apply to them jobs, but a lot of kids don't know the avenues, so maybe educating the schools a little bit more. I know the unions are trying to go into the schools to get the kids recruited to become the workers of the future, to put the infrastructure together.
All right, Mr. Hughes.
Tell a brief story. We had a family move into our neighborhood. I live in the Yorktown area. This was 3 or 4 years ago, and we said, well, why, you know, they came from Westfield. Westfield is one of the largest, fastest growing communities in the state. I said, why did you want to come to Yorktown? Number one, they said the schools. They said Westfield schools Westfield High School is thousands of students. Their kids just wouldn't have chance to really participate in the things they were interested in. And they said, secondly, anywhere in Hamilton County, if you want to go someplace, it takes 45 minutes to get there. So they did their research, and they chose Yorktown. And they chose it because of the schools, because of the amenities, because of the quality of life. And I think we we have a product to sell, and I think we can sell it not only to people moving from out of county, but from our own children who are looking for a good place to live and raise a family.
So we've talked a lot about bringing industry in and needing jobs physically here in Delaware County. There's a flip side to that. You can have tax-paying young workers staying here, working remotely for companies that don't exist in Indiana. And so I think that's a focus area that I was part of a program that the mayor was looking at to try to attract folks to live here and work remotely. So if they worked remotely and lived here, they would get, you know, a $5,000, I can't remember what the $5,000 was. It wasn't a tax break, but it was basically like a bonus of sorts to move here and to invest in living here. The quality of life for young workers is important. That's why downtown, I think, is really starting to thrive. But remote workers pay taxes, and so we have to also bear in mind that we have to keep our quality of life attractive, but to improve our tax base does not necessarily always require a new employer to be here as well.
Okay, Mr. Barber will take the next question first.
Thank you.
So, audience member asked, how can we fill open positions for critical positions like the Sheriff's Department and jail staff?
First of all, our Sheriff's Department's very underpaid. We've got to find the money in the budget to make sure our sheriff's deputies are paid adequate to what everybody else around us is. There's no sense in using Delaware County as a stepping stone to get their training, let the taxpayers pay these people to get their training and stuff, and then as soon as they're done with their training and they've got a couple years under the belt, they move over here to another county to go to work. We need to have competitive wages across the board, whether it be Sheriff's Department, teachers. I know the budgets don't really, the county council budget doesn't really control the teachers, but the Sheriff's Department and all the public servants that work in the county, we need to pay them what everybody else is making in the areas around us. So we'd have to work hard to make sure that we got that done.
It's been pointed out that salaries are a big part, a major part of the county overall budget. We make too many decisions, I think, on an ad hoc basis. There hasn't been a true salary study conducted for county employees in some period of time. And I think that is a necessity. That would be a good investment so that we can see where we are in terms of not only the sheriff and the merit deputies and the jailers, but also our EMTs and paramedics, our 911 dispatch. The same critical shortages are showing up in many, many places. So it's going to take some focus, and it's also going to take probably a long-term commitment. It's not an issue that can be resolved in one budget cycle. Richmond recently did a study for their city employees, and they're trying to make up 1/4 of how far they are behind in each of the next 4 years. I think that's an approach that might have some merit.
Totally agree with Bill on the long-term projection, and had this conversation with the sheriff as I was looking to run for this office about their deficiencies from a salary perspective. It's not a one and done. You're not going to solve that in 2022. So it's got to be a long-term plan. And again, it's just from my experience, where I come from, you know, budgets are year to year, but if you don't have a 5-year strategic plan on how you're going to accomplish something, it's very difficult to do it. And it's on an ad hoc basis. It's what's our latest fire that we're trying to put out year over year, and we have to be more strategic in how our government is spending the money, the revenues that we're bringing in. We have to improve revenues, obviously, to be able to afford more things, or we have to live within our means and cut things out. So every year we have to start, we have to look at that year over year, but ultimately we need a plan to try how we're going to address the salary deficiencies to everyone's point is not just in the Sheriff's Department, but countywide.
Ms. Knapp, is to go.
Oh, sorry, you didn't.
Well, salaries are important, and but coming from a service job as a teacher, I know that how you feel in that job makes a big difference too. And so I think if there is a way to make people feel important and valued and happy with what they're doing is another thing that really needs to have some focus. And everybody needs that. I know as a teacher, we knew we weren't going to get rich, but we did want to be valued and to feel good. I did listen to the budget hearing the other day, and they were asking for payroll adjustment because they had overtime that was so astronomical, and they said, well, why wasn't that budgeted more carefully? And they said, well, they had so few people that they had people that were doing much longer overtime, and extra salary was there. So we just have to really watch what we're doing.
Okay, Mr. Hughes will be first on this next question, and it goes back to kind of some human services. So is the county putting adequate resources toward access to behavioral health services, in your opinion?
Two areas that I'm aware of. The county commissioners commit a significant number, and it's a six-figure number. I can't give you exactly what it is. And I believe that that's through a contract with Meridian Services. Then we also have the Delaware County Health Department, which is sort of funded independently of other departments, but it also provides, people think of the health department as, where you get your birth and death certificates, but they actually have a much wider range of programming that I think would touch on that. That part of that is to say that there's probably no one centralized area of county government that addresses that problem, but it does make contributions in at least those two areas.
Well, I think the short answer to your question is, of course, no. There's never enough money, and there's never enough resources being spent on the behavioral health side, particularly now, even more so given where we are. So, but again, the impact that the county council can have in that front is looking for ways to get creative and trying to find ways of partnering to do that. But ultimately, we're kind of at the mercy of what we have in front of us. So I do think it's an important element. I've got some personal, families issues that I understand, and finding that help in this county is not easy. So I understand the impact, but ultimately, we're going to bring more money in to help try to drive some of those programs.
Well, we just keep saying more money, more money. We do have places that are helping our people, but we aren't subsidizing them. I suppose we could look at doing such a thing and partnering with some other facilities that are doing a good job. It would need to take a lot of research and a lot of decisions made with data. So.
Once again, they're talking about money. The only way we're going to get the money is bring the businesses back. Keep people here that want to work here in Delaware County at a decent wage. The city and the county need to work together and pool their monies together to get this center and things like this working together. The city and county don't work together. They've been at odds for the last couple, 3 or 4 or 5 years. And if elected, I will work with the city in every aspect that I can to bring the city and the county councils together to work for the whole of Delaware County and the city of Muncie.
Okay, next question will go to Mr. Kantz first. And in answering the last question, somebody had touched on something about the county health department, and an audience member asked, how would you assess the effectiveness of our county health department overall and through the pandemic response?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I mean, I don't want to be critical of the health department. I do know some of the folks over there. I think they do a lot with a little. They're very dependent, it seems, on the state in terms of what they're, the information they're being fed, the access to resources, the access to equipment, and other factors. So, to Bill's point, I'm not exactly sure how they're funded at this point, but they are very dependent on the state. So, I do think overall our health department has its heart in the right place. I think they do keep focused areas around, restaurants and things of that nature. They've been very good at some of those things. From a public health standpoint, again, nobody excelled, during the pandemic, I don't think, from a public health standpoint. So, as with anyone else, they struggled a bit.
I would have to agree with that. Again, they're on a limited budget with a limited personnel. I think they've done as much as they could. We were all in a horrible situation, and we all were taken aback. We didn't know what to do, and so to expect them to know what to have done, they were taking their orders from people that were telling them what to do, and so they really were just doing what they were expected to do. I did find, as a grandmother and a mother, I would call the health department to try and get some information for things that I needed to know about, and it was a little difficult to get a hold of people, and I think that the automation that we have now is a good thing and a bad thing. It's hard to get a real person and really get some answers. Again, that's probably not due to their fault, but we probably need to do a better job of reaching out to that department and see if we couldn't support them a little bit more.
The Board of Health, I think they was caught like the rest of the country with their pants down on this pandemic. It was something that had only happened, twice in our country's history. Happened 100 and some years ago. There was a pandemic. We had it again, a couple years ago. Nobody knows how to react on that. I think they did one heck of a job trying to track the best of their ability to track it and see where it was going and where it was coming from. But like everybody else, that was a very strange thing that we just went through, and I hope that we don't ever have to do it again. But I think we've got a really good Board of Health. And they do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Mr. Hughes.
I served as attorney for the county council during 2020 and 2021 during the height of the pandemic, and Jamie Bain, is the head of the county health department, has very small staff. I think, to echo what Audie just said, I think they did a remarkably good job. They reported frequently to the council on what was going on and what resources they had available and what resources they didn't have available. I think, obviously, the entire country got several things wrong in dealing with the pandemic, but in Delaware County, I guess, proud of the effort that the health department made on our behalf.
Thank you, Ms. Knapp. We'll take this one first. Mentioned about transparency earlier. How do you define transparency for the county council?
Well, transparency means that you do everything in the open, that you do things as you should be doing them. You have a process to follow, you follow it. You say what you're going to be doing, and you follow that process. As I said, when you stop doing that, people distrust you. The streaming of the meetings are important. So I think, again, just being able to put it out there and let people see what you're doing and to follow your own rules.
Transparency. Everybody should be able to see what's going on. Everybody. Not just the people in the back rooms. The backroom deals need to stop. When people come to meetings, council meetings for the county commissioners, they should be allowed to stand up and speak their mind without having to worry about somebody over here hitting on them or talking under their breath. All questions are good questions, and I feel that every council member and every commissioner and every elected official should answer their phone calls and speak to everybody that's got questions. My phone number is out in the public. It's going to be the same. I've had it for about 20 years now, and it's going to stay the same. And as your elected official, I will keep it the same number, and you will be able to call me at any time, and I will answer the questions to the best of my ability. And due diligence on the projects coming up, like the wind farms and the solar.
I think as I mentioned in my opening, I've done a lot of work in local government. I've represented school boards. I've done work for the city of Muncie. I've represented plan commissions. And right by my phone at my desk, I always have a copy of Indiana's Open Door Law and Access to Public Records Act, and with all the comments that are provided by the Indiana Public Access Counselor. And I always stress to my clients how important it is not only just to follow the letter of those laws, but to follow the spirit of the law. And if you read the opening, the preamble of each of those acts, it says that these acts are to be construed liberally to make sure that the public has full access to meetings, to documents, to all of the workings of government. That's got to be the goal of every unit of local government.
Amen to that. Transparency. So relative to the county council specifically, I've had multiple conversations with multiple council members over the last couple of years relative to this topic and being proactive in communicating. Agendas, things being posted online, whether it's live streaming, which again comes with costs, so there's a little bit of a balance. It has to be figured out with that, because it does cost money to do that constantly. But being proactive does not have to be expensive. You know, sending out agendas, making sure there's a mechanism in place to actually distribute information on a timely basis, getting it out. These live streams, while great and accessible after the fact, are not well attended, they're not well viewed if you look at the statistics, which unfortunately is a problem. So getting people involved to attend meetings and doing things, you know, during that time and giving them the information proactively so they can feel involved, I think is really important.
Thank you. Mr. Barber will take the next question first. So are there statewide policies that are serving as obstacles to Delaware County's economic growth?
Well, you know, we had our taxes redone a few years ago on our houses, 1%, 2%, 3% on the businesses and stuff. We've got, the rules are the rules. We've got to follow the rules. So what we have to do is look outside of the rules and bring the businesses back to Muncie. Muncie at one time, you used to be able to get laid off from this job over here at Warner Gear and go to work at Chevy the next day. We need it back like that again. We need to produce our own revenue to fund the projects. I don't care if there's one person or 10,000 people that view these council meetings and commissioner meetings. They need to be live streamed, period. 1, 10,000, 50,000. They should be, and I will work to make sure that they are live streamed.
There are always challenges to any opportunities to develop our county and develop jobs, but I think we have to recognize there are things we can't control. I mean, if we could eliminate Madison County and move us over closer to Hamilton County, that would help a lot. We can't do that. We are where we are. But I think what we have to be focused on are the tremendous strengths that we have here, whether it be Ball State University, whether it be the IU health system, whether it be a now vibrant downtown, which it always wasn't, but it is now. We have many things going for us, and we need to emphasize those and bring those to the forefront.
So I'm not sure that there's actual state policies that I could point to that are hindering what's happening in Delaware County, but what I will say is that we can do a much better job, or continue to do a better job, of advocating for ourselves at the state level. We need, the state is where our revenue comes from. So ultimately we need to speak up for ourselves. And when there are monies available and the tax surpluses and things that are happening, we have to fight for those dollars, given, the environment that we're in. So I think we can do a better job of doing that at the state level. I think we've got some folks that are focused on that and that are running for office now. And so I think the policies themselves, obviously they impact not just Delaware County, but also all the other counties. But we can do a better job of advocating for what we need here.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but they put a cap on taxes. When they put the tax cap in place, schools came to a screeching halt, as did government. So it's a good thing for us personally, because then there's a limit on how much taxes you would have to pay personally. However, it does eliminate a funding stream that would be available to us and was available to us prior to that. Nothing we can do about it. Again, I think that's out of our hands, but I think it's something that we have lived with, and it would be nice if we could unhinge it a little bit and raise that tax cap.
Mr. Hughes will take the next question first. Got a question here from the audience. I hope you all know what this program is, because I don't, so we'll give it a shot here. Are there plans to support the IRACS programs after 2 years of funding is utilized?
I would need help. I don't recognize the acronym.
The reintegration program.
Rehabilitation, reintegration. It's not my question. I just know what I read.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. If somebody wants to resubmit that question with a little bit of context, what it is, we'll give it a try. Let's try something different. I'm sorry. I want to get your questions answered. It's just sometimes it's hard to know. Here's one that everybody should know something about. So, what is your plan for improving infrastructure in the county, such as roads, bridges, ditches, that sort of thing?
The plan is going to have to come from the county commissioners, because they are the ones that are in charge of the highway department, in charge of all bridges in Delaware County, in charge of the drainage board. They constitute the drainage board. So all of those infrastructure issues have to run through them. Funding is an issue with highway department, because their funds are tied to such things as the wheel tax and the gasoline tax. Not an easy thing to project where it's going to go. If the prices go up, people drive less, and that could have a negative impact. Obviously, infrastructure is an issue in most counties, whether small or large. There are federal funds now, we know, that are in the pike that we need to take advantage of. Thank you.
I will acknowledge that our infrastructure, our roads stink, for lack of a better way to put it. But to Bill's point, we don't have a lot of say into where that focus area is with the highway department and the county commissioners, other than having seen the highway department leadership at county council meetings over the last year or two. you know, struggling to try to, you know, make do with what they have available to them, obviously is an issue. But just like in every other department within the county, I think we have to take a fresh look at how we're utilizing funds, you know, staffing and other factors, and are we getting the most out of those areas, and what does that look like? So no easy answers relative to infrastructure.
No, there is no easy answer. And again, I think decisions have to go back to data and studies and know where to put the dollars that we do have available for the county commissioners. They have to look at, you know, what has to be done. I know our bridges are in a quandary right now what to do with them because they're so dangerous. There are some in the county that they've closed down. I personally just got my road paved today, so I would have to say they're doing a great job. But we all know that it's a very difficult problem. With the gas tax, as we all know, Indiana, as everybody else was getting a reprieve, we were paying 30 cents more because we need the infrastructure money to do what we need to do. Somebody was telling me hybrids now and gas and electric cars, they're putting some kind of a surcharge on because they're not getting the gas tax. So we're all going to have to regroup and figure out what to do about it.
About 3 or 4 years ago, the state of Indiana introduced a 10% or 10 cent increase on the gas tax just for infrastructure. There's quite a bit of revenue there coming in for the infrastructure. As a person that works in the infrastructure industry, being in and out of sewers, fixing bridges, I worked on the bridge out here at Red Key that's still under repair at this time. I know personally that there's a lot of money in the state hands for infrastructure. They tell us that the next 10 years looks wonderful for infrastructure. So we just need to keep plugging at, getting the state to turn out more money to Delaware County and to fix the roads, to fix the sewers, to fix the storm sewers, the sanitary sewers, all of it. So there's money there. We just got to get the state to give it to us.
Okay, we've got time for a couple more questions before we do closing statements. Mr. Kantz will take this one first. Do you have any ideas to increase revenues or create new revenues for Delaware County?
That we can directly impact. Well, I mean, I touched on a few of the topics. I do think that, you know, making Muncie a destination of sorts for remote workers would help with our tax base, which would really come in handy in terms of trying to drive taxpayer revenue. Then from an industry standpoint, I think we do have to get creative, and I do actually look forward to working with the commissioners or offering up ideas to the commissioners on industries that maybe are being overlooked or not being explored as deeply, that maybe not be on the traditional radar, and trying to drive you know, smaller businesses that end up growing in this town. Even that has been a little bit of a struggle, and we got to look for some areas that have growth potential within the next 5, 10, 15 years, and I think that's an area we can work towards.
Well, I keep going back to the renewable energy. I think it's something that we really need to study. We really need to spend a lot of time to figure out where we could place that, where it's going to do the least harm to anybody. I think there's a lot of money to be made there. Randolph County, I looked at their budget. They have about $2.4 million coming in to date from this year. That's a lot of money to help with what we need to do. And so we need to get some things in place. We need to get people on board. We need to hold hands and figure out how to do it properly and to do it transparently so that everybody knows what we're looking at. There's a lot of ground, I believe it's owned by the county, around the airport. There are places we can go where we wouldn't impact neighborhoods. And so I think that's one thing. I know we have commissions looking at that. We have a group that's looking at renewable energy, not with the county council, separate from them. But I think we have a great ordinance in place for that, and we just need to really hammer that.
I know I haven't pushed it much tonight. I am a union member, proud union member. We need to better paying jobs in this county, I've touched on it 2 or 3 times, we've got to go out and seek these people out and bring these businesses to Delaware County to make Delaware County one of the strongest counties in the state of Indiana, like it used to be. You had all these factories. You've got union shops and you got non-union shops. You bring the bigger union shops in, and the smaller non-union shops, the production and stuff will dwindle down to them to where they can pay a decent wage for these people that's working there. Like I said, I haven't spoke much about being union, but I am a strong union member, and I think industry has to come back to Delaware County. Has to.
I think anyone running for county council is going to be in favor of more revenue. Where it comes from is the challenge. Property taxes are capped. Our maximum levy is established by the state. I am not in favor of supporting, I would not support any new taxes on Delaware County citizens. I think we need to be aggressive in looking for state and local funding, perhaps some private grants. Some of those came have to live within our means. And if Delaware County doesn't grow, then government can't grow. If there's growth in our future, then maybe we'll have the opportunity to explore new ways to use that revenue.
All right, thank you. One final question. Ms. Knapp will go first. And this one came from Ms. Julie Snyder's government students at Muncie Central High School. If $1 million grant was available for the county to use any way that you wanted, what would you recommend that you do with it, and why?
Wow. Well, it is a trick question. That'd take quite a bit of study, I think. You would have to, I think we have to support our personnel. And as I said, the budget is already, so much of the money is used for personnel. We need to pay our people more. We need to keep the people that we have here. And we need to do something that would enlighten that. I do think that we do need a crisis center. I think that's a huge issue in Muncie right now. So probably I would go with those 2 areas, the focus on personnel and a center where people can get help.
$1 million. $1 million sounds like a lot of money. These days, $1 million for a government, for a local government, does not go very far. Work on some roads. You know, you might get a few miles out of $1 million, paved new roads. I would have to work with other members on both sides of the spectrum to see what would be the best way to use the $1 million if we had it. But you got to remember, it's a one-time deal. You might use it for incentives for people to sign a contract to maybe stay in the county a little longer, give them a little extra money. We had some issues with that last year, where they was given bonuses for the people to stay working in Delaware County, maybe something like that. But make sure it gets put back in the right place and spent on the right people and the right things that we need in this county.
Yeah, to Audrey's point, Delaware County budget overall this year will be about $50 billion, so $1 million isn't going to go that far. I suppose that if you had to do, if you could invest that in technology that would make local government more efficient, maybe that you wouldn't need to replace some of these employees that have chosen to go elsewhere. That might be a good investment. Certainly training would always be a good investment to make your employees more productive. It's a nice thought, and I'm quite sure that the council would find a way to use it.
There's definitely no endless answers to what you could do with $1 million, but I'll actually shift it out of something. We talked a little bit about the rehab and behavioral health pieces before. I do think that's been slow to get out of the ground with the new jail, and whether that's in directly funding that, I think making sure that we're supplementing, because I think staffing will also start to become an issue of those facilities, making sure we're focusing on attention, not just in the salaries that are obviously lacking in other areas, but also making sure that those facilities are getting the best chance to do the most work, and getting those out of the gate first and foremost. So that's probably a little outside the realm, but because there's a million things that could be done with that $1 million. But I do think that's an area right now in the short term that we want to be sure that has a chance for success getting out of the gate, and I think is really important to some of the other areas in law enforcement and prosecutor's office and other areas that are struggling currently. So if we can make some impact there, that would be helpful.
All right, thank you. So to wrap up the forum, each candidate may make a 2-minute closing statement. Mr. Barber will go first.
Okay, once again, my name is Monty Barber. I'm running for County Council District 1, which is the southwest Delville area and part of Yorktown right down the middle, sort of down by the river. It kind of runs a little jog there. Once again, the commissioners, several of the Republican council members talked about how tired they are of being transparent. It was brought up in the newspaper, it was brought up at the commissioners' meeting. Transparency is the most important thing that a local government should have to be. There should be no backroom deals. It should all be out there in front for everybody to see. There was a 7-0 vote to have the budget meeting by the council members, to have the budget meeting live streamed. The president of the council went to the commissioners, I don't know if it's because it's election year or they don't want to be transparent like they said, he smacked their president on the hand and said, no, we're not going to fund it. So now we have a council member doing the live streaming on his phone, which is wonderful. Great job. I am a Democrat. I am running for county council, and I will work with both parties, and I will work with the commissioners on good, fundamental projects that they want to work on to bring jobs to Delaware County and to help Delaware County as a whole, to make sure that everything is being transparent. Transparency is very important to me, and I'm Monty Barber, and I'm asking for your vote.
I think my overall vision for county council comes in a couple of different pieces. One piece is that I want to continue to see the council be bipartisan or even maybe nonpartisan. In the 5 years that I served as their attorney, I didn't ever see a party line vote. And I was totally impressed with the members from both parties and the way they interacted, the way they were respectful of each other, and the way they worked together in the best interest of the county. I want to see that continue. I also want to make sure that we have public meetings, open to the public, available to the public, that are respectful and non-confrontational. I think we've seen too much on YouTube or the nightly news of people shouting at each other at a public meeting, and guess what? You can't get anything accomplished that way. Parties have to be respectful of each other and respectful of the process. And civility is something that I believe in. And thirdly, the county council has a very simple job. They have to balance the budget. They can't spend more than they take in. So it's a matter of setting priorities. It's a matter of establishing what the essential functions of county government are and how can we do them best. How can we get the most out of what we have in terms of financial resources? It's a big challenge. If you look at the county council budget hearings, They have a book in front of them that is 100 pages long of line items, and they examine each one of those pages and each one of those line items. So it's a daunting task, but I hope I have that opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Bill stole some of my thunder there a little bit with some of his comments, but along the budget lines, I think that we need to take a fresh look at county government, city government, how it's always been. There's a lot of long-term employees within the county employee list which is great in a lot of areas, but may also lead to stagnation. And how do we look at a more strategic approach to a 5-10-year plan for the county as a whole? Because those dollars right now, while we're making some incremental headway in increasing revenue, we know that it's not going to be an overnight jump. And so we need to be able to do more with less. So whether it's technology, like Bill said, whether it's staffing and creative staffing, whether it's positioning folks in different areas and making sure that we have the right people in the right positions, I'm hoping to get actively involved in really trying to understand the depths with which each department works and how they work. Again, I've been around business a long time, been in and out of a bunch of different areas. I've owned my own businesses. There's a lot to consider, and there's a lot of improvement and efficiencies that possibly could be gained. So I do hope to have some impact over the next 4 years if I get elected. So thank you for having us tonight.
I look at the county council as a way of giving back to my community. I was a teacher, as I said. I have raised 3 kids. I've got lots of grandkids, and I'm retired. And so it gives me a chance to give back to the community where I haven't had time to do that sort of thing in the past. I think you're right, Mr. Hughes, about the council getting along. They do. And if you watch the votes, I bet you I don't know what the percentages are, probably higher than 95%. The majority always votes together because we're just talking about budget. They're talking about moving money from one place to another, and it's either there or it's not there. So that part of getting along is great. I think we have to be open to the public. I think that some of the members are not attending meetings regularly, and I think that we just need to really be conscious of what we get into when we go for an office like this, that you will be there, you pledge to be at the meetings, you pledge to be available to people, and that the world is a better place when we're all holding hands and having cookies. It's my kindergarten background. But we need to be working together, and the community has to work together, and this is a great place to be. Delaware County, the county council, we keep talking about the county council and the city council, but the county council includes the city. So it's kind of an overlap, and we all are working for the same cause. We want a better place for our children to live and for them to stay here in our community. And that's what I hope to be able to have a help to do. Thank you.
Thank you for participating this evening. Let's give a big round of applause for the candidates. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you to Southside Middle School for hosting us here. Thank you to all our volunteers. I would like to encourage everyone to register to vote if you haven't already done so. And even if you have, this is a good time to check your registration, make sure all your information is up to date. League of Women Voters volunteers has some registration information in the lobby, and also information about taking MITs out to the BMV to get a voter ID if you need one. Our next forum is next Thursday night at Muncie Central High School at 6:30 again. We'll have the other county offices besides Commissioner and Council, and I hope to see you all there. Thank you.